You join me today in a car that shouldn't exist. A Rover 75 V6 manual. This is a 2003 Rover 75. Now, I'm not going to do a video today about all the chapter and verse about the development and every little minuscule detail of history of the 75 because I've got another video on that coming up at some point in the not too distant future. This video is more a thank you note to whoever ordered this car because this is kind of my perfect 75 for a number of reasons. Firstly, we've got the colour, Wedgwood blue, that kind of weird light metallic thing they painted 75s in. Very much not a colour of its time, but kind of suits the car. Secondly, under here, we've got a 2.5 litre V6, fantastic. Thirdly, it's a Tourer, an estate, it's the proper long roof version we like. And finally, this is the piece of resistance. It's got a manual gearbox, a V6 estate manual, the Grail car. Someone went and ordered this thing. I am so happy today. So basically, I'm not really going to tell you anything. I'm just going to go for a drive and grin a lot. There's not much to say about the colour apart from this is kind of a weird colour for a modern executive car. Everything else is going black and silver. Rover were doing pastel greens and blues and things, which really kind of suits the kind of different attitude of the car. You know, it's not a regular BMW or Mercedes. It's its own thing, which is fantastic. So Wedgwood blue, wedgy, which is actually a colour used on the early Rover P6s, although it wasn't metallic. It was just a pale blue then. Let's look at the second very exciting thing with this car. If I can remember where the little latch is on this, I think you push something down here. Or pull, yeah, push that. There we go. Here we have the 24 valve V6 2498 cc's of glory in the front of this car. Now at first these things came with a 2 litre V6, but not long into production they brought out the 1.8 turbo, which made more power for less fuel usage, so they had to drop that quietly and quickly and bring out the 2.5 litre, which made 175 horsepower and 240 newton meters of torque, which is a lot. Now these are lovely smooth engines. The only downside with these cars, and let's ignore head gasket stuff, we won't talk about head gaskets today, is the cam belts, which this has 3 of. So if you don't go to someone who knows what they're doing, it can be horrifically expensive. An expert in these things will charge you about 300 quid to change all 3 cam belts, which is pretty good going. It's just for the work, not for the parts. And because this is a lovely sounding V6, I think we deserve a little brum brum, don't we? Oh, listen to that. I had Popmaster on a second ago. This is the slowest review I've ever filmed because I had to pause for 20 minutes to do Popmaster. Oh, listen to that little rasp around the back. This is the exhaust pipe end. Now both the Rover 75 and the Jaguar X-Type were revealed to the world at the Birmingham International Motor Show in 1998, and they're both pitching to the same audience, the same market, same kind of retro design themes, but with BMW's might behind Rover, this was probably the better product if I'm honest, and I've always slightly favoured the styling on this one as well. Interestingly, when the design proposals were shown to the boards at both BMW and Rover, it was unanimously signed off. Everyone seemed to love it straight away, and with good reason. It's a great looking car. But there's one little bugbear, fly in the ointment, whatever you want to call it, these indicators down here. Now I don't know if this is true or not, if this is something I've heard along the way. These were set at the lowest UK legal road height for an indicator to be. I've heard a rumour this was signed off on by BMW because they didn't want a lower suspension sports version of this car to be available to threaten the 3 Series or the M's cars. So it wasn't until after BMW had sold Rover that the MG version came out and the indicators moved from here to up here. Was it a coincidence? Is this a conspiracy theory? I don't know. Now although the 75 ran from 1999 till 2005, the Tourer didn't appear on the market until 2001, and there's more BMW influence here at the back of the car as well, with this really handy little hatch, which is something I really do like about BMW estates, which hardly anyone else seems to follow up on. This button on the back of the windscreen wiper means you can open the tailgate glass, which is so handy for so many reasons. If you've got a load of stuff in the boot that's kind of loose and you don't want it to fall out, if you've got dogs in there, you don't want them to jump out when you open the boot, you can just reach in and pet them or tell them off. If you happen to be a car photographer and you want to be taking photos on the road semi-legally, you can open this glass bit, kneel in the boot and take photos of other cars. It's a very niche requirement just there. Or probably more usefully, if you're tight against a wall or in a low car park, you can just open this bit of glass and put luggage and shopping straight in the back without having to open the entire tailgate. This is pure BMW. The button is the same. This little slopey bit is the same. E39, E60, E46. Loads of BMW estates all through the early noughties and late 90s had virtually the same, well, it looks like the same components, frankly. Yeah, they probably are. Bear in mind, this car's model number is the R40, which is a BMW product range, same as the Mini was the R50 when it first came out. Underneath this lovely bit of chrome, this is pre-Project Drive, this car, being a 2003 one, so it's got all the proper badges, the nice chrome, everything is really, really super high quality. You feel this handle, it feels just so solid. This feels fantastic. Big heavy boot, struts taking it no problem, enormous looking boot. It's actually not the biggest in class, but it's no way is it the worst either. This is 400 litres with the seats up and 1222 litres with the seats down, which kind of puts it somewhere in the middle. It's a bit worse than a C-Class, which is, I think, 485 litres with the seats up and about 1510 with the seats down, but way better than the Lexus IS estate, which is an estate everyone seems to have forgotten exists, which only had about 340 litres with the seats up and only 1,000 litres with the seats down, so about a quarter smaller all the way around. So it's not the worst, but it's not the most practical. A highlight in the brochure was that this sill lip was only 544 millimeters off the ground, about 50 centimeters. The thing is though, the boot floor is quite high, so it does kind of encroach quite heavily into your boot load space area. So if you've got tall bags or big boxes you want to be carrying around, they can be sitting quite high up. There's a funny little alcove in both sides here. There's no kind of nice covered storage bins or elasticated stuff, just a little recess which drops down, and on both sides there is a curry hook, which is nice. And you've got these black painted metal lash down points so you can restrain loads or victims, whichever you prefer. And underneath this, it's like a solid hardwood floor, hard board, with a nice handle, again from BMW. It lifts up on a strut like on a 5 Series. Very posh, very high end, very executive. This is the market they were shooting for. This is all high quality stuff. And the reason we're now fined for the boot floor being so high is because it's got a full size spare wheel. Fantastic. How good is that? Complete toolkit in here, complete with a BMW style locking wheel nut. Key, that's not the nut that's on the wheel. Incidentally, the wheels have also got BMW lug nut covers as well, so there's a lot of BMW DNA in this car, which is why it was so good. This is like going back to the Honda days when we got the best engineering ideas from a foreign country and the fantastic design and handling ideas from the British engineers, making a fantastic car all round. So here we have the business end of the Tourer. Very handy. Nice little lozenge-shaped handles in the back as well. Now this interior is something special. Rover's designers really went all out to throw everything they could to make this as comfy as possible. What a nice place to be. This is a nice English country pub. Forget having a tea shelf for your cup of coffee, you've got somewhere for a nice warm pint with sticks in it. These seats are very retro inspired with the design of the squab and the piping. I've even seen a few Rover P6s with these seats actually retrofitted into them, which is apparently not that hard to do, I'm told. They are beautifully soft and comfortable, not massively grippy for fast coring, although the car can do that. And they are electric, so you can wheel yourself around with the multi-way, I think a 6-way electric Dubry seats, which is nice. And the overarching theme in here is retro and oval. So there's lots of ovals and lots of kind of old-fashioned looking stuff. Let's look at this beautiful wood. This would not look out of place in something far more expensive. This is properly nice. Airbag in the front for the passenger as well as one for the driver. No airbags on the side on this car. They were an option at this point. Became standard in 2006 for side airbags up in the top. Now, I always gone about door design because door cards make or break a car in many ways. And look at this. It's minimal but kind of busy at the same time. There's lots going on. Lots of curves everywhere. It's all just intersecting curves. 1990s was curve central in terms of design, and this is catching the tail end of it good and hard. Got this big stretched egg shape for the door windows and the mirrors as well. Even the little cutouts for the window buttons are oval shaped. and that's kind of set into a overly kind of big overly shape, which looks a bit like a car wing mirror on its side, kind of curvy. Big curvy bit here, big curvy egg-shaped door speaker grille, big curvy door bin, which is also quite large for, you know, lots of detritus will fit in there. It's a good sized door bin, and there's lovely kind of just it's like a very headlining material, like a velour carpet padding the door, so it's just so comfortable. It's kind of faux leather that you put your elbow on, and then just soft, just nice. Then moving on to the dashboard, obviously we've got the same beautiful wood, lots of oval shaped things in it, oval shaped air vents, oval shaped dials. The dials were the thing that everyone seemed to talk about all the time in the reviews back at the time, because they were creamy coloured, so kind of retro. I think maybe people confuse creamy coloured sepia and retro because they look at faded stuff that's very old and forget it probably wasn't creamy yellow when it was new. It was white, it's just gone yellow over time. These are creamy and yellow from new because old looking. They really do look good in this car. They were a bit out of place slightly when they changed the colour and stuck them in the MG ZT, but they look amazing in here. And you've got quite an interesting shaped kind of cutout for the binnacle as well. Well, you just look at the shape, it's just weird. Then you've got the matching vintage look clock, which looks a little bit busy if I'm honest, the face of that. That could have been a little less cluttered. Nice big chunky, easy to use stalks for indicators and lights, wipers front and rear, lots of intermittent sections for the wiper speed on there, and a lovely grey leather steering wheel. The grey actually matches the piping in the seats really well, and this kind of grey plastic which looks like leather here in the centre. You've got horns. Wow, that's a decent horn. Oh, that's an awesome horn car, well done. Lovely little Rover badge in the middle, pre-project drive, so nice badges, airbag in the steering wheel, and this little 3-button radio control down here, bolted on the bottom corner of the steering wheel. This is Rover's standard radio control item, went on everything from Rover 200s to Freelanders, but with a chrome embellishment here to make it look posh. Down above your right knee, there's a lighting control panel. Headlights, fog lights, dash brightness and headlight leveling. And above that, there's a handy little cubby with a rubber base on it. It's quite an unusual thing to find that there. A lot of BMWs have that kind of lidded pistol pocket that lives down here above your knee. But here it's just an open thing with a rubber base, which is just a handy place for stashing wallets, phones, Mars bars. Moving into the centre, first of all, we've got a big radio cassette. I think a CD was an option, obviously not ticked on this particular car. These buttons are again all completely oval, and this volume knob is very, very Rover indeed. I don't know this particular unit was used in any other cars, but every element of it feels very Rover head unit stereo-ish. So yeah, that's the radio. I can confirm it works. I just listened to Popmaster on it. I didn't do that well. High teens both rounds. Then we've got air conditioning, heating, ventilation control, dual zone climate, so hot and cold for left and right passengers. Set it to auto, recirculate. It looks like it's got front and rear heated windscreens, but that surely must be just a quick defrost function. I don't believe it's got any kind of heating element in that screen. And interestingly, because I guess they're selling to the older guard people and they want to go retro and old-fashioned, Fahrenheit or centigrade. So if you're living in the present, you can have it in centigrade. If you're living in the past or America, Fahrenheit. Bit more timber underneath here, heated seat, but lozenge shaped oval buttons for front passengers, obviously, only one stage heating. It looks like you've got 3 push out buttons, but this one doesn't do anything. This one is a 12-volt socket / lighter, and this one is a cup holder. Hang on, cup holder test. Don't want to spoil the big reveal. This opens out wide. It takes the furious mug quite happily. Now while we're on the subject of cups, let's look at the tea shelf. Oh, Rover. You can tell BMW are exerting a bad influence here when they spoil the most important part of a British car, the tea shelf. Tea shelf fail. If you've got small cups, dainty flask accessories, or just a china mug, that will probably go on here. It's a good area for sandwiches. Scones will fit. Small sushi rolls, that kind of thing, that will all go up there quite happily. Pork pie, that will go no problem. A bit of Swiss roll, also not an issue. But a decent sized cup, not going to work. And only one cup holder in the front. I don't know if there's a second cup holder as an option perhaps. I need to look into that. Important consumer advice there. Underneath that we've got the push to reveal ashtray, which is surprisingly deep. They're expecting a lot of smoking or sweet wrappers in there. And in front of this ashtray, which goes out all the way to the gear shift, there's a huge cubby hole, which is really useful unless you want to open that, in which case it's completely useless. So, I never really noticed that before. Oh, this is a major highlight of the car for me, because virtually no V6s were ordered with a manual. In fact, until I saw this car a couple of days ago, I actually didn't think it was even an option to have the manual on the V6. So seeing this absolutely made my year. 2020 has sucked in many ways, but this has made up for it. Thank you, lovely blue car. 5-speed manual Getrag 283 5-speed. Oh, it's quite a notchy, heavy duty feeling thing. It feels like it should be behind a large V8. It's that kind of chunky, heavy feeling that you want to go drag racing in. It's quite a thing. Moving back from this beautiful highlight of the vehicle, with another little oval thing, an oval with twin ovals in it. This is your hazard warning lights and central locking. And squeeze this little handle under the lid. There's a cubby holder with space for tapes, so you can listen to your Depeche Mode, enjoy the silence, so enjoy the music of the silence. I don't know where I'm going with this. Over to the far left, we've got another big tray, a big rubberized tray. This is a semi-tea shelf. It's recessed, so if you want to just pour in a can of Fanta and drink it with a long straw, you could do that. Or you could put small snacks, phones, rodents, put mud in there, grow cress. But it's a nice little tray where you can put oddments and stuff. And below that, there is a not particularly massive glove box. It does have a light in it, it goes back a long way, and it's carpeted, but it's very shallow indeed. But you do have two hints of cup holders. They're not like dished in order to hold a cup steady, they're just flat round planes that you can put a cup onto. So if you're stopping for a picnic and using this as the Swiss roll shelf, then you can have your cups of tea and coffee down here and your food up on there, and your cress can be snipped straight into your egg sandwiches. Oh, you get egg sandwiches on the top, cress growing fresh in the dashboard recess, cups of tea down in the glove box lid. I see how it all works now. You've got to have a system. Now before we go and check out the back of this car, there's one more thing to look at. Look at this light area. It looks like something from a Star Trek movie. It's one of the bad guys' ships. It's multiple oval lozenges in a horseshoe-shaped lamp. This is a real design high point. Richard Woolley was the guy who designed the exterior. I'm not sure who designed the interior on this car, but this is a lovely bit of design with buttons for individual reading lights and the main light on and off. And there's also some alarm functionality up there as well. But yeah, that's a lovely, lovely bit of ceiling decor. Right, let's check out the back seat of this thing. It's not the biggest opening into the back of the car, but it's not too bad either. I've got the same genuine Rover rubber floor mats which came new with this car. They're still in amazing condition. In fact, they don't look that dissimilar from Freelander rubber mats I had in a Freelander once upon a time. Unusual choice to have them in a Rover 75, but I believe the first owner of this car was a fairly elderly chap, had it as his last car, and I guess that's something that, well, suited his lifestyle at the time. I guess an estate car is a fairly practical thing, so maybe he's going walking with dogs quite a lot. I don't know. It doesn't smell like dogs in here. I have to say it smells completely fresh. So who knows? Right, the seats in the back are as comfortable as the ones in the front. They don't recline or heat or anything clever like that, but you do have a nice big armrest, and they split 60-40, and they're the same rather nice leather, which is, it's kind of a hard surface but soft padding kind of feel going on, so you kind of sink into it and just feel nice. It's nice, piping looks good. It's kind of curious the way it kind of curves up in the middle. This is normal, and in the centre of the seat you've got a hidden button here, cup holders. So yes, you've got twin rear tea shelf going on. Nice headrest, which are also lozenge shape. Everything's oval or lozenge shape. Courtesy light in the back with these two little buttons in it, which actually make it look like thrusters, so even more like a Star Trek bad guy spaceship. In fact, this is the shuttlecraft that came off that mothership over there. The backs of the front seats are really heavily indented, recessed into the body of the seat, so you've got a ton of room for your knees and your feet. So there's lots of room, despite the fact that on paper it shouldn't be very roomy at all. You've got kind of mat pockets in the back of the seats as well. Push a little button there, little ashtray, and you've got twin air vents here, so it's not a bad place to be at all. Now when I was looking at the load space cover in the boot, I didn't spot a kind of a luggage net. Maybe it's an option, maybe it's something I just haven't discovered yet. But there are little notches in the ceiling up here, so if you have got a luggage net in the back of your parcel shelf, you can hoil it up here, hook it there, and stop dogs and heavy items smacking you in the back of the head if you brake sharply. So I guess it's somewhere, or an option. My in-depth research didn't go into luggage space covers. Oh yeah, it's got speakers here, mid-range and tweeters, so yeah, stuff. Ovals, more carpet. Oh, let's fire this bad boy up. Oh yes. Sounds so good. It's got a lot of a burble, a bit like good old Mark II Granadas and Mark III Granadas. When they have the V6 in them, the 2.8 and that. Oh yeah. Oh, what a noise! That's just fantastic. Oh yeah. Let's get some cold air going. Lovely. It's a bit stuffy today. It really is extremely comfortable on the road. Just glides along. Although when you hit the brakes hard and change down, you do feel it nosedive with the weight of that V6. Oh. Oh, you don't want me talking over that bit, do you? That's a great noise. Oh, C6, fantastic. This car is currently for sale at Stone Cold Classics at Rootham in Kent. Please check out their website for a lot of interesting things for sale. The steering's not too heavy. It's obviously very accurate. It's a nice newish car, so it does feel nice and tight, no kind of play in the car at all. The clutch is a little bit heavy, and the gear change, as I said before, it's quite a heavy change. So it feels like something that wants to be in a drag car rather than a cruiser. Well, that's why so many of these were automatics, because they were bought by people who wanted something to just kind of cruise comfortably and relax into. But this engine, if you just want to rev it a little bit, it will just go and go. I want to keep on changing down and hearing that noise. I mean, these were rapid cars. 0 to 60 was 8.2 seconds, and they'll max out at 140 miles an hour, which is pretty decent for something your granddad lugs the spaniels around in. Oh, even better, we've now got an XK120, was that, or 140? I can't tell. There's a little bit of road noise from the thing, but the tyres are the same size as they would be on the 4-cylinder cars. Overall, the car just feels so solid, so kind of planted on the ground, like it. So for some reason my camera is rattling today. I think the lens hood is not quite fitted properly. So if you hear a rattling noise, that's my camera, not the car itself. It is a delightfully relaxing thing to drive. There's just so much power, even in sort of fourth gear, at sort of 40 miles an hour or so. You just dab the throttle and there's just loads of torque, just willing to just pull you on just gently, stab it a bit further, put it along quite quickly. And the brakes, it's discs all round. Safety was a huge thing with this car. So it's got electronic brake force distribution. Stability control was an option up until I think 2005, and then it became standard. Traction control was an option in everything above 2-litre engines, so the V6s basically. Now, suspension-wise, and giving it that really, really good ride. At the front, it's got McPherson struts on both sides, obviously, and in the back, it's got BMW Z axle, which goes back to the Z1 car, wasn't it? Back in the late 80s, which is a really nice bit of design, giving fantastic road holding, although it does compromise boot space a little bit. So the ride is always nicely composed, and far better handling than the slightly retro looks would perhaps make you want to give it credit for. The Tourers did get self-leveling rear suspension, so if you start loading stuff in the back, it will stay planted level on the ground. And if you want to be extra practical, it's got a 100 kilo roof weight limit, so if you want to put 100 kilos of potatoes or something on the roof, you can. It will take it quite happily. Which I believe was the highest weight limit roof rack limit in its class by quite some way. It's actually quite nice sitting at traffic lights because you hear the engine burbling away. Don't get that in a Tesla. obviously this car was built really as an executive machine for salesmen and people plying their trade up and down the motorways, and so hitting on a dual carriageway is a good idea to test what this thing's like, and it is delightfully smooth. There's a lot more engine noise from this V6 than there would be in, say, the 1.8, but I don't care, it sounds fantastic. I'm quite enjoying that little kind of V6 drone, rumble, whatever you want to call it. The engine's warmed up a bit now, and we've got some red lights, so we can do, well, 0 to 50 I think along here. Well, hit 50 in third. That's pretty good going, actually. I'm quite impressed at this thing's acceleration. It's not a bad machine at all. It just feels so effortless. I mean, that wasn't really trying, because this isn't my car, so I'm not really thrashing it. What a lovely, lovely car. What a great thing to be in. It's interesting how this car, it's not a massively heavy car, but it does have a feeling of mass. It's got a real sense of gravitas around it. I mean, if you want to have a crash in a car, you could do a lot worse than being in one of these, because it's got so many safety features. It's got like underbody box sections giving strength and rigidity. It's got like a ring of steel apertures around the doors, so that in an accident you can always open the doors afterwards, and it protects the shape of the body integrity. At the time of its launch, it got the best Euro NCAP of pretty much everything in its group, even better than the Volvo. So quite an impressive thing. So there's a fair bit of mass in the car, and it does have a certain, I'd say it's got a certain weighty feel. I think the V6 certainly does aid that, because there's more weight to the nose as you kind of push on a bit. Yeah, the gearbox is, it's quite light when you start flicking it through the gears at speed, but it's still a little bit notchy feeling. I quite like that. It kind of suits the V6 grunt of the car. Now, if you're worried about the economy of a car like this, it gets around 29 to the gallon according to the figures, so not as bad as I was actually expecting. It's kind of funny. I find it a little bit hilarious. This car's kind of got the granddad image, the old boy in the cap, but at the same time it's got this meaty V6 engine under the bonnet, coupled with a proper manual gearbox, so you could absolutely hoon it. That buzzing V6 soundtrack is just always there, and it's so unlike the 1.8s. It gives a whole different character to the car. Oh, this car is so much fun. The manual gearbox absolutely transforms it, because the auto box is a horrible sluggish 5-speed thing. This is just alive with this gearbox in it. The car just absolutely wants to play. Oh, it's so much better. The car is way more responsive, way more enjoyable. You feel like you're part of it with this gearbox in it. This engine deserves this gearbox. Oh, it's fantastic. But the interior is a lovely place to be. You don't feel in any way kind of crammed in or penned in. You've got loads of elbow room. The seats are so comfortable, and the dashboard is just a lovely thing to look over. It obviously is very retro feeling. The wood looks just fantastic. I mean, look at the sunlight just dappling over that beautiful kind of maple wood. The dials are nice and clear to read, and the noise from the engine just never stops being amazing. You do just want to change gear a bit too much though, and there's still a bit more road noise from the tyres than I'd be really happy with. Now, I mentioned before, this is a pre-project drive car. That means it was built in 2003 during BMW's ownership of Rover. So it was all done properly, built at the Cowley plant where they now build the Minis. Built alongside them for a while. After BMW sold out and the Phoenix consortium came and ruined Rover, I'm sure there'll be comments about this, but BMW get a bit of a bad rap on this. Obviously they were not heroes. Yeah, Phoenix 4 really were the villains in this, and they were the ones who should take all the credit and blame for Rover going down the Swanee. Anyway, after the Phoenix gang got their grubby little mitts on the company, and increased their salaries and decreased investment. There was Project Drive, which meant that lots of things were decreased in quality. So materials, numbers of clips behind the dashboard, all kinds of stuff. And these cars were built in Longbridge and increasingly got worse and worse as time went on. This car, however, is a 2003 Minter. It's actually really low mileage example. It's only got 62,500 miles on it, and I think it's one of the bit owners from new. One owner had it from brand new, kept it the last 17 years, and then a Rover 75 enthusiast bought it and did a bit of kind of tidying up on it over the last 2 or 3 months. So it's had a few jobs done to it. So new cam belts, funny vacuum pipe thing behind the bumper I'm not really sure about. It's been done, front bumper's been painted, it's got a couple of new tyres on it I believe. So basically it's like a really, really fresh car. Unfortunately, it's just a shame that that chap who had the car briefly wasn't in the trade. Otherwise, it'd still be a one-owner car, because he doesn't really count as an owner in my book. He's just someone that kind of passed through the hands of, you know, for a very brief time. The only thing that really doesn't live up to expectations on this car are the brake. It's discs all around, obviously, with Bosch ABS, but it just doesn't have as much bite as I was really expecting. It seems to be a fairly common trait of kind of this class and size of car from the early noughties, when the Alpha 156 was horrendous for brakes, being just rubbish. I would like to find out who bought this car originally, drive around to his house and shake his hand. Well, so I can't because of COVID. Let's go and just go over to his house and wave at him through the window. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this run out in a frankly ridiculous car, which is a unicorn that shouldn't exist, but I'm so glad it did. I'm so glad someone went out, ticked those boxes, give me a V6, give me an estate, give me a manual, paint it some mad pastel metallic shade, make that my car. Oh, whoever you are, sir, I salute you. I'm quite tempted to buy this car myself. I don't need this car, but I still really like it. If you've enjoyed this, please hit like, please hit subscribe, do the usual sharing on Facebook and stuff like that. Tell your friends, tell your family, tip your waitress. I'm here all week. Join me again next time when I'm driving, who knows what, something different. I'll guarantee that much.